Turn that down a little bit, Zakor. Turn that down a little bit. Let's go. All right, this is the ISUPK Wednesday law class. Also, remember, check out Commanding General Johanna's radio show, which is Monday, 2 a.m. UK time. We also have classes here in the UK, Monday through Friday. We have them live from 394 Lodge Road, B185PW, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. till 9. Monday, the history class. Tuesday, the brotherhood class. Wednesday, the law class. Wednesday, the scripture breakdown class. And then Friday from Manchester, we have the Lashon and Kodash class. We also have the radio show on Friday on the ends. Camp on Saturdays if the weather's too warm. So we've got a busy schedule for you in the UK. And we're about to go into how withholding a child from the father is the beginning of trauma. So we're going to show how it causes trauma, how trauma starts, how it affects, how something you're doing to just hurt the father also hurts the child. So at the time, when you're in your emotions saying, I'm not going to let this father see the child, you're hurting the child and you don't even know it. So in doing that, you're hurting the child. Stop it. Don't do that. So with that, you're hurting the child as well as hurting the father. And in the end, you hurt yourself. Why? Because when that child goes down the wrong road, you're the one left there, left crying and hurt and all of those kind of things. So we're going to start off in the book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 1. Also, any questions, just type them in the chat and we'll get to them. So this is the book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 1. Hold on. It says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. So now, this ain't a little serpent. This right here is the oppressor. He's more subtle than every beast of the field. So what does he do? He tries to get you to kick that man out of the house. He pushes all of this Miss Independent. He pushes all of this, you don't need a man kind of stuff. He pushes all of this, you can be mother and father by yourself. Because he's more subtle than any beast of the field. He's more subtle than any beast of the field. So he tells you these things, man. He tells you can do it without a man. A child don't need a father. And in this, all of this is his plot to half destroy you. In this, at the time when he's saying it, it sounds so right. But believe you me, it's so wrong, man. While he hates strong black families, strong black Hispanic families, he hates us Israelites having a foundation, man. Having that family unit, how the Lord might just have that family unit. He hates it. So what do they do? Try and get rid of that family unit. How do they do it? Get that man out of the house, man. You can do it without a man. You can do it all by yourself. Yeah, you're a strong, independent black woman. And they push this on our sisters. Why? Because you ain't never heard no white woman say, I'm a strong, independent white woman. It don't even sound right. You've never heard an Arab woman say, I'm a strong, independent Arab woman. Because it don't sound right. They don't say that. The only people who say that is our people, man. Why? Because we are lost people, hurting, trauma, all of those kind of things. And what do? We don't know how to project ourselves in the right way. So we do everything based off emotions. We do everything based off an emotional state. And now, based off an emotional state, this is why the ghetto is the way it is, man. This is why the ghetto is the way it is right now. Because we do everything based on emotions. All these kids running around with knives, they grew up in single parent households. They seen their mom emotional. And now they're emotional. Why? Because they don't know how to be men. Because a woman can't teach a man how to be a man. What happens is once the child gets to a certain age, you can no longer speak to them as a woman, man. So lucky. Now let me go down to... Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, have God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God have said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest ye die. So now she was saying there's certain things we can't do, lest we die. And once you kick that man out of the house, man, you're leading your children down a horrible road. And we know this. We know that every child needs a father, but what do? Still kick them. Don't stay down there. I can't stop playing games. Now we know every child needs a father in the house, man. Because without a father in the house, there's no discipline whatsoever, man. It says, but of the fruit of the tree, which is in the midst of the garden, God have said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest ye die. So now she's reiterating to this devil, there's certain things we can't do, or we're going to die. And listen to his response. His response was, and the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. This is what the oppressor says, man. You kick that black man out of the house, no harm will come. You get rid of him, no problems will come. Don't worry, we will take care of you with government assistance and all of these things. That's what they say. They say the same thing that the serpent was saying in the book of Genesis. Everything will be fine. Everything will be okay. And all of those kind of things. So lucky, give me 1 second. So now, let me read that one more time. It says, and the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. For God doeth know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened. And this is the thing, man. We listen to the oppressor way too much. And this is our problem, man. This is the reason why our children die so young. This is the reason why we die. This is the reason why we're in jail. Why we're in the ghettos. Why? Because we listen to these other nations too much, man. The Lord had a blueprint, and the Lord had a family blueprint, man. That is supposed to be God, Christ, man, woman, and child, man. That's the order. Now, once you remove that man out of his position, the foundations is half ruined, man. The foundations is ruined, and your house ain't gonna stand. And what we have now, our families ain't standing, man. Our families is being broken up. The children is going to jail instead of going to university and getting degrees. Our children are going in the grave before they even get to live their life. And only we die at these large numbers, man. Why? Because we choose to listen to the oppressor, man, and not serve the Lord. And this is our problem, man. We choose to listen to the oppressor and not serve the Lord when we're supposed to. Hold on, let me get the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 54. All right, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 54. Hold on, let me get there. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 54. It says, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate. Now, there was one time when what? Black men would love black women, man. And black women would love black men. It says that is tender and delicate, man. And there was a time when we loved one another. And that's when we understood it's us together against the world, man. That's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be our nation against the world, man, because every nation hates us. What you'll find is every single nation that rises to power does what? Oppresses the children of God, man. And they know there's power in oppressing the children of God. They know when the children of God don't serve the Lord, if we oppress them, we can become the richest empires on the face of the earth. And why do you think all these empires became so rich? Off of the backs of us, man. You want to be a rich empire, what do? Oppress the children of God. And how can the children of God stop these other nations from oppressing them? By serving the Lord, man. That's what we need to do. We need to serve the Lord. And that right there will stop all of this, these nations oppressing us, these nations able to rule over us, them able to take us captives if we serve the Lord, man. But obviously we don't know how to serve the Lord. Why? Because we've been raised by the Christian church. We've been raised by the church and the mosque, and we've been lied to by our oppressors, and they just sell us this dream about going to a place in the sky called heaven. They sell us this dream, man. This dream that don't exist. And we chase after their dreams. And we think, okay, all the laws are done away with. Just say that I love God every day with my mouth, and I'm gonna make it to heaven. And that's what they teach us. And listen, man, there's laws, statutes, and commandments in this Bible which teaches you how to keep your family together, man. It teaches you how to keep that man in the house. It teaches you all of those things. But obviously the oppressor don't want you to know this. So what does he do? Teaches you the laws done away with. Teaches you to go from man to man. Teaches you to have multiple baby fathers. And if you're mad at him, don't allow him to see the children. That's what they teach you, man. Meanwhile, the oppressors get to see their children, man. They have a thing where they co-parent. But with us, because there's so much emotions in the way, they don't even want to let you co-parent. They just want to take the baby and you can't see the child at all, man. And in doing that, you're actually harming this child. You don't even know. You're harming this child. You're harming the father. And in the end, you're harming yourself. In the end, you're harming yourself. Hold on, give me 1 second. Hold on, give me 1 second. Hold on, give me 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
Mary, look, come on, Mary. I'm going to go to the good job.
Dad, can I eat some things?
Go ahead. All right, so now I was in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 54. Say, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil towards his brother. So now, this is talking about black on black crime in the Bible. Because there's one time our eye wasn't evil towards one another, but now we hate each other. Imagine we see a black man that looks like us, similar complexion, all of these things, and we hate him, man. Why? Because our eye is evil towards our brother. Whereas we're supposed to love one another. Why? Imagine this, everybody else hates us, and all we have in this world, man, all we have in this earth is each other. It's only right we love each other, but instead, what do? The way the oppressor oppresses us, we know we can't do nothing to him. So what do? Harm somebody else that's in the same position as us. Imagine your life's hard and you're stressed, and you go stress out another black man the same way. You go do the same thing to another black man that's going through the same things as you. And that's why, because our eye is evil towards our brother. And why is our eye evil towards our brother? Because we don't keep the laws of the Lord. We don't want to serve God no more. And we listen to the oppressor, man. And that love that we're supposed to have for one another, we're giving it to other people. We're giving that love to others who don't deserve this love. We're giving this love to others who ain't supposed to have this love. All that love we're giving to other people, we're meant to keep and give it to our people, man. That way, we're meant to love our own brothers, our own sisters. There's not enough love to go around, man. If you're giving your love to another nation, what are you doing? Taking away from the love you're supposed to give to your own people. Taking away the love that you're supposed to give to your own kin, man, your own family. Why? Because your love is divided and giving it to other people who you're not supposed to give it to. Well, hold on 1 second. So now let's go to the book of hold on, Salakia. Hey, Shalom, Lord, Zakai, do me one favor, turn that speaker on.
Shalom, sir.
That
Christ.
Until it says aux. They say now just press it one time. Is it on? Press it again. Press it until there's a light by the aux. No, don't hold it. Just tap. Press it. Is it on aux? Press it again. Don't hold it. Just press it till it says aux. Does it say aux? Hold on. Give me 1 second. Press it one more time. There should be a green light. Can you see a green light? What does it say by the green light? What does this one say? What does it say on there by the green light? Huh? Press it again. What's it say now? Hold on, give me 1 second. I think you're pressing the wrong button. Hey, Shalom, you're Shabbat Kafar.
Shalom, ya Bashem, ya Shaykh Barakatah.
Can you hear me?
1 second. Yes, Khan, sir, I can hear you.
More time, Christ. All right, then. So, and now we hate one another. And why do we hate one another? Because obviously the oppression. So that's what oppression does. Now there'll be somebody that oppresses you. And it's like with any bully, if a bully bullies you and you know there's nothing you can do to that bully, what do? You go and take it out on somebody that you're supposed to love. That's what most people do. Most people go to work all day, get shouted at by their boss all day, and then what happens? They come home and take it out on their wife, or the wife comes home and takes it out on them, and used to fight with each other. Why? Because you're both oppressed by the world, whereas that's supposed to make you love each other more. That's supposed to make you say, that's supposed to make you see a black man and say, let's not be mad at each other because we're both going through the same oppression, man. Instead of me and you fighting each other, me and you need to sit down and reason and understand why. Me and you have the same skin with the same family, and why they're only oppressing us instead of the rest of the world fighting you, and then me who's supposed to be your brother fighting you also. That makes no sense, man. But obviously we don't know how to deal with oppression. So instead of loving one another, we hate each other. So Banyamin, get me Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 54.
Canada one, Khan, sir. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 54.
Yeah, I can't understand.
So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil towards his brother.
So now a man was tender and delicate, but now what does oppression do? It makes you no longer tender and no longer delicate, man. It makes you no longer tender and no longer delicate. Why? Because the world's oppressing you and you're angry, and you come home and your anger's misguided, man. This is why black people is angry towards black people. Why? Because we are oppressed by the rest of the world and we don't know how to deal with it. Whereas that's supposed to make us love one another, man. That's supposed to make us say, you know what, that's my brother, man. Look how angry he is. I feel the same way. These things is meant to push us closer to one another. So like you read on.
Canada one, Khan. And toward the wife of his bosom.
Go ahead.
And toward the remnant of his children which he shall leave.
And it says, and towards the remnant of his children which he shall leave, man. And now, because of this oppression and this hatred for one another, we ain't there to raise our children. Women ain't letting men see the children. Men don't want to see the children. Why? Because of all this oppression we go through, man. And we go through this oppression because we don't want to serve the Lord. So not serving the Lord opens up portals to everything else, man. Disobeying God opens up portals to the rest of your life crumbling down, man. If you build your life, if you serve the Lord and the Lord is the foundation of your life, everything you do will be the right thing. But if the Lord ain't the foundation of your life and you're focusing on other things, everything's going to crumble eventually, man. You're going to be in this situation where you can't see your children, where life's a disaster. And that's what happens when you don't want to make the Lord your foundation. So like you drop that, give me Mark chapter 3 and verse 27. So now we're gonna go to the book of Mark.
Canada one cancer.
So we're gonna go to the book of Mark chapter 3 and verse 20. So like, go ahead.
The book of Mark, chapter 3, verse 27. No man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man.
And now the strong man in this house would be your husband, man, would be the father of your children. This is the strong man. The oppressor can't enter into your house unless that man's binded. And you help bind that strong man when you kick him out, man. You help bind that strong man when you kick him out and tell him he can't see those children. That strong man is the man who's meant to discipline those children, man. Like I said, there comes a time in life where we've all been there where your mom will tell you off and you're not scared of your mom no more, man. Your mom can only tell you something for so long. And this is why, if you've noticed, women are always shouting at children and children ain't listening. Women have to hit them like 100 times and the child still ain't listening. Whereas as a man, you just say 1-2 words and the child's fearful, man. And the Lord put that spirit in a man for a reason, man. The Lord made a man fierce like a lion for a reason, man. Because them children are supposed to obey their father, and that's part of the family structure. Now, without that structure, guess what that means? No discipline, man. Them children can run laps around you. They can do whatever they want. That man is there, so what? He can lay down the law in that house. And that's what it's supposed to be. This is why every time when women can't get the kids to listen to them, what do they do? They have to say, your dad said. Your dad said. Because they know who the authority is, man. Children even know who the authority is. And this is why in single parent households, it produces gang members, criminals, and all of those kind of things. Why? Because there's no father to discipline that child. So don't kick that strong man out of the house. Why? Because that strong man is there for protection. You think you might not need that strong man, but best believe you do. You think you can do it without that strong man. But once your child's about 15, 16, you realize you needed that strong man in the house. By that time, the child's already headstrong and nobody can't tell them nothing. The Bible says you bow down your child's head from a youth. We're going to get there a bit later on. So I can read that for me one more time, Benjamin.
Mark chapter 3, verse 27. No man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except...
And what's his goods? Them children, man. Once you help bind that strong man, them children get spoiled, man. Everything righteous in that house gets spoiled. Just think, if there's no strong man in the house, what can happen? People can break in. People can do whatever they want. It's the strong man's job to keep all of those things out of the house, man. It's the strong man's job to keep these child molesters and pastors out of the house, man. And they even done statistics where they said most children that get molested come from single parent households, man. They said children that get molested come from single parent households. You know why? Because even a child molester knows, I don't want that man at my throat, man. I'm not going to touch his kids. So what do they do? They find a woman that's simple as hell that leaves them around their kids, man. And this child molester does what? Then molests your kids. And what do you do as a woman? Cry. Listen, man, you should have never kicked that strong man out of the house. That strong man is there for a reason, man. Even people just seeing there's a strong man there, it's a deterrent. Kicking him out of the house is no deterrent, man. You open that door for all kind of things to come in. You open that door for all kind of demons and spirits to step foot in that house. So lucky, go ahead.
Canada one can't. Except you first bind the strong man.
And you help bind the strong man when you phone 999. You phone 999. You put an injunction on that strong man. There's no longer discipline for the kids. Because they can do whatever they want. Why? There's no strong man around to tell them not to. There's no strong man to tell you kids, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Listen, man. Stopping that man from seeing his children. Allow every man that has kids deserves to be a father to them children, man. The child's not just yours, man. You didn't make the child by yourself. And this system, this society allows you to say, you know what? Supervised visits only. And then women get mad, oh, he didn't want to do supervised visits. Why is he doing supervised visits with some oppressor there to see his own children, man? This man ain't abusive. This man ain't none of those kind of things. And because you're mad at him, maybe because he got himself another woman or the relationship just didn't work out, you stop him from seeing his child. That's the wrong thing to do. But then in the end, it will come back to haunt you, man. In the end, it's going to come back and haunt you, man. And you're going to realize it's the biggest mistake you've ever made once your child gets involved with gangs. Because there's certain things, especially boys, there's certain things you can't speak to your mum about. Imagine being a boy getting bullied. What are you going to do? Call your mum to come to the school. Do you know how weak that looks? Your mum's coming to the school to back your case because you couldn't call nobody else because your father's not. And you're like, listen, man, you can't protect your sons forever. There comes a time in life where there's no more you can do for them. And this is why they need their father so they can have them conversations and learn to not be so emotional and all of those kind of things. Salakia, drop that. Get me Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 1.
Another one, Khan. The book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 1. Every wise woman buildeth her house.
It says every wise woman builds her house, meaning a wise woman builds her house, takes care of the children, make sure the house is straight, make sure she's in order, the kids are in order. A wise woman builds her house, man. Go ahead.
But the foolish plucketh it down with her hands.
What the what?
But the foolish plucketh it down with her hands.
Says a wise woman builds her house, and the foolish plucks it down with her hands. Meaning her actions destroys this house, man. Her actions destroys this family structure. That's what her actions do. And what you see right now is a neighborhood full of houses being plucked down because women's destroyed them houses with their hands, man. Child support. That's plucking it down with your hands. Phone in 999. That's plucking it down with your hands. Teaching the child to hate the father. You're ruining the kids and you don't see it. Why? Because you can't see past your emotions. You can't see past your emotions, man. Imagine if there's a house and you start to take bricks out bit by bit. What happens to that house, Benjamin? What does that house become?
It gets destroyed. It becomes rubble.
Exactly. You destroy that house and you pluck it down with your hands. So here it says a woman plucks down a house with her hands. And what do we call a house today, which is run by a single mother?
A house that's run by a single mom, I would say that's See, you're talking the generic name?
Yeah, Khan, what do you call it today?
No, I can't think of what we'd call it today.
So now, let me see if anyone read that precept one more time. So lucky.
Khan, Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1. Every wise woman buildeth her house.
So there's a wise woman that builds her house, make sure everything's straight, family's good, takes care of the bills, takes care of the children, everyone's straight. Go ahead.
But the foolish plucketh it down with her hands.
But the foolish plucks it down with her hands. Now, a woman that plucks now, what do you call it today if a woman plucks down a house with her hands? What do you call it today if a woman kicks that man out and tells him he's not seeing the kids? What's it called today?
I got it now, sir.
Go ahead.
A single parent home.
What's the term they use?
Single mom.
That's true, but just think on the terms of a foolish woman plucks her house down. Nakapa said single parent. That true, but just think of the name to call it. Just think of the lines of a house being broken down. What do you call it? Just think,
A,
a woman.
a destroyed house. Sorry.
That's not the term they use. What's there? You go, Nakapagal, a broken home. That's the one.
Broken home.
A
Canada
broken
or
home.
can. Nearly,
So now,
nearly.
a woman that plucks down her own house. Just think if she takes bricks out of her house. Let's say there's a built house and she starts to take the bricks out of that house. She's then breaking that house down. And nowadays, they call that what? A broken home, man.
Can't, sir.
Someone that destroys their house and becomes single because they want to destroy their house, they create a broken home. And that's the term they give it. So let's get the definition of a broken home. So lucky, so now here it says, hold this on the screen. All right, so here it says, according to the Oxford Dictionary, a broken home is a family in which the parents are divorced or separated. The dictionary.com defines it as a family in which one parent is absent, usually due to divorce or desertion. Says, in general, a broken home is a household where there is a lack of harmony and stability due to the absence of one or both parents. Children from broken homes may experience emotional and psychological problems such as depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. So read that precept for me one more time, Banyamin.
Canada one can. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1. Every wise woman buildeth her house.
And a wise woman builds the house. Why? Because a wise woman doesn't want her children to have anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. So she builds that house because she don't want her children to have these things, man. Based off her actions, sometimes you have to think about other people other than yourself. Once you think selfishly and think, okay, I'm going to be single because this man, I don't, whatever the issue is, and you don't think about them children. Once them children are destroyed, they're destroyed. Why? Because of your selfish actions, man. Because you plucked that house down. This is why the Lord says in the Bible, you're supposed to stay together. Why? Because he don't want you to pluck that house down, man. He wants you to be like the wise woman that builds that house. Imagine if the house is broken, you're supposed to build that house, man. It's like, let's say you've got a house and the roof's leaking. What do? You don't just move out of that house and leave it. You fix that roof, man. Why? Because this is your home and you care about it, man. If your house is broken, it's your job to fix that house. That's what you're supposed to do. Not just leave the house or destroy the house and pluck it down with your own hands. That's what a foolish woman does. And what you find is someone that don't want to build their house but plucks it down with their own hands. What happens? They then move on to somebody else. They then do the same thing. Then the same thing again. Then the same thing again. I mean, if you have the same issue with multiple people, sometimes you have to realize in life, I might be the problem. Sometimes in life, you have to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I might actually be the problem. But obviously, most people don't do that. There's always somebody else to blame. And in moving on and destroying your house, you cause your children to have anxiety and depression. Why? And low self-esteem. Because imagine this, at parents' evening and sports day and other things, everybody else is seeing, everybody else's fathers is there and collecting them from school and all of those kind of things. And where's your father? Your mom don't let you see him, man. Your mom tells you he's a deadbeat. You've never met him, but you hate him based off what your mom's told you about him. Of course, that's going to give you low self-esteem, man. When everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to my dad's for the weekends. You can't go to your dad's, why? Because your mom doesn't allow you to see him. Or he don't want to see you for maybe because of how your mom is. Or maybe he just don't want to see you because the problem's him. Now, then if the problem's him, then it's not your fault. If there's an open invitation for him to see his kids and he chooses to not acknowledge them, then obviously the fault is on his side. But if you stop him from seeing his kids, the fault is on your side. So like you read that precept that you're holding one more time.
Canada one can. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1. Every wise woman buildeth her house.
Every wise woman builds that house, man. Every wise woman builds that house. Go ahead.
But the foolish plucketh it down with her hands.
But the foolish plucks it down with her hands. She will take that. She'll tear that house apart brick by brick, man. She'll destroy that house brick by brick. And she tears down that house with her hands. And then that man leaves and that creates a broken home. And that creates depression in them children, anxiety and stress in those children. Why? Because she plucked down that house with her hands. Give me 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 3. Now, in the Bible, there's a foundation, man. Your house is supposed to be built upon a foundation. If your house ain't built upon a foundation, it's not going to stand, man. So, okay, hold on, let me get there with you.
All
right, so now we're in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 3. So now there's a foundation, man. In a black man's home, there's supposed to be a foundation. There's supposed to be a setup. But we've lost this setup due to captivity. And this is why we have so many broken homes. This is why we have so many broken homes. And this is why we have so many children doing things they're not supposed to. Salaki, go ahead.
1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ.
That the head of every man is Christ. This is the structure of how your house should be. Go ahead.
And the head of the woman is the man.
And listen, even a woman has a head man, which is the man, a husband. Now, if it's not a husband, it would be a father or whatever. Now, there's an order, man. A man is supposed to be over his woman, man. You're meant to tell your woman what she's supposed to do and what she's not supposed to do. There's a family structure, man. A man's meant to serve Christ, and this woman's meant to serve her, man. Because there's an order and there's a foundation to these families that we're building, man. Now, if this foundation's a mess, your house ain't gonna stand. So, Lucky, go ahead.
And the head of Christ is God.
And the head of Christ is God. So now, the foundation is the Lord, man. The foundation is the Lord, Christ, man, the woman, and that's the cornerstone, man. Now, if you look at what a cornerstone is like the foundation, like one of the first bricks laid, which keeps everything steady, man. That's what the cornerstone is. The cornerstone is the foundation. So look at what else to do. And you plucking your house down is like what? You tearing the roof off, man. You kicking that man out the house is you removing that cornerstone, man. You removing that cornerstone is you kicking that man out the house, man. Listen, Christ was the cornerstone, and the builders rejected him, man. And in your family household, you're meant to be like that damn cornerstone of the house. Why? Because you're part of the foundation. You're part of what keeps this family strong and all of those kind of things. Drop that. Give me Matthew chapter 7 and verse 24. So, okay.
Another one, can. Matthew chapter 7, verse 24.
The context of this precept is Christ basically letting the people know, don't just listen to what I say, but do as I say to have a strong foundation. So, okay, go ahead.
Matthew chapter 7, verse 24. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock.
And if you follow the foundations and how the family structure is supposed to be, and you keep that man in the house, you're likened unto someone who's built their house on a rock, man. Because your house is strong, right? Because you got that man in there. You got that strong man in there who you haven't let get binded. Now you let that man get binded, your house ain't built on no rock, man. Because as soon as things start to happen, everything's gonna fall apart. So, Lucky, go ahead.
Verse 25. Should I continue 25?
Oh yeah, come go ahead.
And the rain descended, and the floods came.
And the rain descended, and the floods came. And listen, if you've got a man in that house, especially a strong man that serves the Lord, man, whenever the rain and that flood comes, this man's going to know what to do. This man's going to know not to get stressed about bills, not to get stressed about work, not to get stressed about the things that average people stress about. When all these trials come and try and break up your relationship, this man's foundation is strong. And if you're a sister that builds your house, your foundation is going to be strong because you're going to be like, you know what? Though we're going through a rough time, we're in this for life. Though we're going through a rough time, this relationship is for life. You're built upon a rock. Now, if you're not built upon a rock and you got no foundation, soon as them floods come, someone's going to decide to be a single parent, man. Someone's going to say, you know what? We keep arguing, let's be single parents. You know what? We keep arguing, you ain't seeing the kids no more. You know what? We keep arguing supervised visits. That's what some people do once these floods come in and the trials and hard times and arguments. Sometimes you have to argue, man. Sometimes arguing is good for the soul. So luck, yeah. Sometimes you have to argue, man. Sometimes you have to argue. Obviously, divorce shouldn't even be in the back of your mind. It should just be we argue, and yeah, we'll be on good terms tomorrow. We'll argue, don't worry, we'll sort it out in about 2-3 days. That's how it's supposed to be. It ain't supposed to end up with a man getting his clothes thrown out of the house and getting put on child support and all of those kind of things. Ain't supposed to be like that. Lucky, go ahead.
And the winds blew and beat upon the house.
Yes, and the winds blew and beat upon the house. Go ahead.
And it fell not.
And it fell not. So people that's foundation is strong, who understand these laws of the Lord and who understand how marriage and relationships is supposed to work. Now, every day you're not going to be on good terms. Some days you're going to argue. Some days you're going to have falling outs. But if your foundation's strong, those falling outs won't end the relationship, man. Those falling outs won't be the end. But if you got no basis, meaning you ain't standing on no laws, you don't believe in no laws or nothing, you just believe in, yeah, this person's doing my head and let me find somebody else. As soon as them floods come, single parent households, lucky, go ahead.
For it was founded upon a rock.
For it was founded upon a rock. And our relationships in here is founded upon these laws, statutes, and commandments, man. And that's why marriage lasts in here, because it's founded upon a rock. So when the wind comes and the storms and it tries to ruin your relationship and your marriage, obviously we don't let it, man. Why? Because it's founded upon a rock. So we don't allow it to ruin our life. So lucky, go ahead.
Verse 26. And everyone that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not.
And everyone that hears these sayings and doeth them not, meaning, yeah, you just hear the Bible, but you don't keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. You just hear it because it sounds good, but you don't do it. Go ahead.
Shall be likened unto a foolish man.
What?
Shall be likened unto a foolish man.
And you likened unto a foolish man, same way, like that foolish woman that plucked her house down, man. You're likened unto her, someone that plucks the house down when hard times come. Someone that plucks the house down when arguments come. You're likened unto her, man. So lucky, go ahead.
Which built his house upon the sand.
And listen, man, if you ain't got no foundation, a foundation is what you build on. And the base has to be strong. If you don't have a strong base, you're built upon the sand, man. Relationships in the world is built upon the sand. Why do you think in the world people are in a relationship 1 minute and single the next? Why do you think they're in a relationship that lasts about a month, 2 months? Because their relationships is built upon the sand. Their relationships ain't built upon no rocks, man. Expecting a woman in the world to not cheat on you is insane, man. Expecting her to not cheat on you is insane, man. If she's in the world, you should expect it, man. You should expect it, because that's what people in the world promote, and that's what they do. Because their relationships ain't built upon no loyalty. Their relationships ain't built on no laws of God. Their relationship is built on, he makes me happy today, but I'm going to be unhappy tomorrow. He's made me unhappy, and we ain't spoke for 2 days. So what am I going to do? Open my legs to somebody else, because this is called a break. This is called a break. That's what relationships is built on in the world. Whereas in here, there's a strong foundation where these relationships is built on the rock. And whatever tries to ruin it, we don't let nothing ruin it, man. Whereas outside of here, nobody fights for nothing no more. They take the easy way out, and the easy way out is to give up, and that's what most people do. Take the easy way out and give up. So, Lucky, go ahead.
Verse 27, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the wind
Rain
blew.
descended, and the floods came, and the wind blew. So now this is these rocky relationships. When all these things is hitting this house that used to supposed to be building, this family, this relationship. Go ahead.
And beat upon that house, and it fell.
And beat upon that house, and it fell. Why? Because there was no structure, man. It was built on the sand. There was no strong foundation to it. Go ahead.
And great was the fall of it.
And listen, man, that's what happens when you don't have a solid base. And great is the fall of it, man. The rain beat upon that house. You kick that man out of the house. Now your children are adults, and they don't respect you. They don't listen to you. You don't know how to tame them. You don't know how to discipline them. Everything you say to them, they don't listen. Listen, man, you let that man stay in the house. So Lucky, let me get they even got us. Listen, they even got a thing. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Hold on. All right, so now, even the whole term baby mother. Now that right there, you've never heard an Arab man say that's my baby mother. Never heard a Chinese man say that's my baby mother. Even here, when you type in the origin, it says a baby mama, also baby mother, or hyphenated baby mama is a slang term for a mother who is not married to her child's father, although the term often carries other connotations as well. This term is associated with African Americans originally, coming from Jamaican Creole. So listen, man. But Benjamin, when have you ever heard an Arab woman say, yeah, my baby father? Have you ever heard it in your life? It's like you turn on that speaker to Zakai. I think it's gone off.
Salakia, sir, that was my mic was muted.
Oh, you might be muted. Have you ever heard an Arab woman say, "Oh, the kids are going to my baby fathers tonight"?
No, sir, never.
Have you ever heard a Chinese woman say, "Yeah, my baby mother"? Never, ever, man.
Never.
You don't hear them terms. Now, these terms is associated with us, baby mother, baby father. Why? Because the way our relationships is ruined, man. The way our relationships is ruined, baby mother is associated with black people, man. Baby father is associated with black people. I've never ever heard an Arab say in my life, yeah, my baby mother. I've never heard it. What I do hear Arabs say is my wife. But when it comes to us black people, yeah, my baby mother. And this is why people look at us like, damn, these black people can't hold down relationships and all of those kind of things. Hold on, let me get that precept. How we're supposed to be. Hold on, give me 1 second. Give me Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 6. So now we've become so low. Hold on, let me just pull it back. Let me just pull it back on the screen so we can see how low we've become as a people. That obviously it's a term associated with us. So now it says, now this term's associated with us. It says a baby mama, also baby mother, or hyphenated baby mama is a slang term for a mother who is not married to her child's father, although the term often carries other connotations as well. This term is associated with African Americans originally, coming from Jamaican Creole. Listen, man, we known as those people to have a baby mother, a baby father. Because like I said, an Arab man nowhere in the world has never said the kids are staying with my baby mother. An Arab woman's never said that's my baby father. These derogatory terms is associated with us, man. When we meant to be the wisest people on the face of this earth, so lucky, you got that precept for me.
Come, sir.
Most High Christ, go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 6. Keep therefore and do them.
It says, keep therefore and do them. So now the Lord's given us the foundations, his laws, statutes, and commandments. So keep therefore and do them. Meaning we're meant to keep his laws. Go ahead.
For this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations.
This is our wisdom in the sight of the nations, man. The Lord wanted us to be better than everybody. The Lord wanted everybody to see how we handle our marriages, how we handle our relationships, how we handle our issues, how we only eat what's lawful. The Lord wanted us to be. Everyone looks at us and is like wowed by us. Nowadays, we are shame in front of everybody now. We are a nation where it's supposed to be, wow, look how great these people are. And due to our unrighteousness, people look at us like, damn, look how shameful these people are. When we're talking about, yeah, man, my baby mom don't let me see the kids, these other nations is looking at you like, damn, what's wrong with these black people? Can't they get it together? Whereas our wisdom in the sight of the nations was meant to be righteousness. They're meant to look at us and learn everything from us. And nowadays, they look at us in disgust. They look at us in a horrible way. So, okay, go ahead.
Which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
And the people are meant to say, this great nation is a wise and understanding people. Now, what they say is, these black men have so many baby mothers. These black women have so many baby fathers. That's what they say now. These black men don't look after their kids. They look at us in disgust now. There's so many of these black men in jail. So many of these black men are drug dealers. That's how they all look at us now. Whereas they was meant to look at us in a righteous way. But because we don't serve the Lord, we've opened the door to unrighteousness. And now everybody looks at us like we're so evil and we're so unrighteous. Whereas we could change that overnight, man. If we just changed our life and said, you know what? We're going to put away this evil that we've been doing. If we just said we've been wrong for so many years, we've been evil for so many years, and it's got us nowhere, man. Imagine, we've been evil for all these years. Where's this evil got us? In jail, dead in the streets, the bottom of society, oppressed, got us ruled over by other nations. That's where being evil's got us, man. How about we be righteous and get what the Lord has in store for us, man? All the rewards that God has in store for us, all that rulership that God has in store for us. We need to get back to that. So, Lucky, go ahead.
Canada one count, sir. Verse 7.
As a
For what?
Turn it down a bit. So, Lucky, go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 7. For what nation is there so great, who has God so nigh unto them?
And now, they're meant to say, damn, which nation is so great that has God so nigh unto them? Hold on. 1 second, I'm just trying to find hold on, give me 1 second. Now, I can't find it, but there's a thing called malicious parent syndrome, where obviously, because they're malicious, they don't allow their partner to see the children, because they're malicious. And this actually hurts children. Why? Because some parents go as far to tell their child, your father's dead. Your father's a deadbeat. And most of us grew up hating our fathers based on what society teaches us, based on what society tells us. We've grown up hating our fathers. Get me Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 18.
Canada one count, sir. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 18. Curse shall be the fruit of the body, of thy body.
And now it says, curse shall be the fruit of your body. What's that? Your children. Now, based on how you raise your children, based on how you raise your children, depends on how they grow up, man. It says, "Curse shall be the fruit of your body," and our children is suffering some of the trauma that we go through, that we went through, man. This is why people say, "Oh, this generation is worse than the last." It's because the last generation is dealing with everybody else's stuff that they didn't clean up, man. They're dealing with everybody else's problems that they didn't clean up. Imagine the issues that your grandma had; she passed them down to her children. The issues that your parents had, they passed them down to you. The issues that you have, you pass them down to your children. And the Bible says, "Curse shall be the fruit of your body, man." And what's the fruit of your body? The fruit of your body is your children. And I show you how it works. There's a thing called transgenerational trauma, man. And transgenerational trauma is trauma which is passed down from one generation to the next. Now they done a study in Jewish people after the Holocaust. Now imagine if they done this study in black people, what they would find. Imagine if they done this, the amount of trauma that we go through. Imagine if they done this study in black people. Just imagine if they done this study in black people, the amount of trauma they would find. But obviously they don't do some of these studies on black people. Why? Because they don't think we go through trauma. They think black people are, have no emotions and they ain't human. So then they conducted this study in Jewish children. So we're going to read a little about this study that they done in Jewish children. It's a thing called transgenerational trauma. So it says, transgenerational trauma is the psychological and physiological effects that the trauma experienced by people has on subsequent generations in that group. So now it's letting you know what one generation goes through. They then transfer that trauma to another generation. And that's why tons of our children all grow up the way they do. Like I say every week, children don't just one day go from playing with toys to picking up knives. Your daughters don't just one day go from being an innocent little girl to opening their legs to every man she sees. There's some trauma that nobody speaks about because they don't do these examinations on black people. They think we go through no trauma. So now most of the things that we do is based off the trauma that we've learned from our parents. Trauma is learned behavior. So it's things you learn from your parents, which then passes down to you. And this way is very important to break the cycle so your children don't go through what you went through. Now, you grew up in a single parent household. Why do you want your child to go through the same thing? You knew it was hard growing up with one parent. Why do you want your child to grow up with one parent? That's why you need to break the cycle and say, you know what? My mom wasn't as strong as I am. She kicked my father out of the house. I'm not going to do the same thing to my children because how it affected me is the same way how it's going to affect my children. What you do is you go about things the other way and say, you know what? My mom done it by herself, so I can do it by myself. And your mom failed, man. She failed. And that's why all the children turn out the way they do. Because she failed and she thinks it's some kind of victory. People think being a single parent is a victory. That's like having one leg and talking about one leg is better than two. That makes no sense, man. It's like having one leg and one arm and saying one leg is better than two. If you have one leg, you're unbalanced. And you being a single mom, you're unbalanced, man. Allow that father to see his child before that transgenerational trauma ruins that child, man. So lucky, let me read on. It says transgenerational trauma is the psychological and physiological effects that the trauma experienced by people has on subsequent generations in that group. The primary modes of transmission are the uterine environment during pregnancy, causing epigenetic changes in the developing embryo and the shared family environment of the infant, causing psychological, behavior, and social changes in the individual. The term intergenerational transmission refers to instances whereby the traumatic effects are passed down from the directly traumatized generation to their offspring. Now, if you're traumatized, and they call it PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, if you don't deal with that trauma, it then passes down to your children. If you don't deal with that trauma passes down to your children. So that's trauma that we need to deal with. Because if we don't deal with that trauma, it then passes down to our children. They then pass it down to their children. They then pass it down to their children. And this is why people say generations get worse and worse and worse. The reason it gets worse is why? They're dealing with all the stuff that you didn't clean up, man. They're dealing with all the stuff you didn't clean up. And that's why in UPK, you have a fresh start, man. You become somebody brand new with no trauma. and then that way your children get a clean slate, and they don't have to go through what you went through. They don't have to see no man beating up their mom. Because in here we raise men not to beat their wives, man. In here we teach men don't beat your wife, man. So they grow up not seeing this domestic violence. Because what happens? Children see domestic violence, and then when they grow up, they didn't do the same thing to their partner. They didn't beat up somebody's daughter. In here we raise men not to raise their hands to their woman, man. Now, if she goes to attack you, obviously you're going to restrain her and defend yourself. But we raise the sisters in here not to hit no man either, man. You can have an argument without hitting each other, man. You can have an argument without hitting each other and pulling weapons on each other and all of those kind of things. Now, let me read some more in this. It says, transgenerational transmission is when the offspring then passes the effects down to descendants who have not been exposed to initial traumatic events. So then they ain't been exposed to the traumatic events, but based on how you are, you've passed it down to them. Imagine being a child, seeing your mom crying every single day. Your mom depressed every single day, crying in her bedroom. What do you think that's going to do to a child? That's going to make a child depressed, man. That's going to make a child upset. The child's upset and they don't know why they're upset. It's because they're coming from an environment that's not a good environment. Imagine being a child hearing your mom speaking bad about your father every day. Then you're going to be like, oh yeah, my mom said my dad ain't shit. That means my dad ain't shit. My mom said this about my dad. It must be true. And most children hate their father until they actually grow old enough to see through their mom's lies, man. To see that their mom was the one with the issues, man. Once they actually listen to their father's side, and the father says, well, I tried to see you, but I couldn't because your mom didn't let me because she found out I had another woman. Now, when you're a young boy, your mom will tell you your dad didn't love you, so he got another woman and moved on with another family. And then you feel like, damn, my father left me. He got another family and he left me. That's how you feel. You feel like my father got another family and he left me. Until you being a man, until you get older, what happens? You then start to go through the same things that your father went through with women, man. The same way, the things that you was mad at your father about, your children are going to be mad at you about. So, okay, let me read on some more about this transgenerational trauma. Says when the offspring then pass their effects down to descendants who have not been exposed to initial traumatic events, at least the grandchildren. Says of the original sufferer for males and their great-grandchildren for females. Collective is when psychological trauma experienced by communities and identity groups is carried on as part of the group's collective memory and shared sense of identity. For example, collective trauma was experienced by Jewish Holocaust survivors. So now, just think how much collective trauma Black people would have from being enslaved, from being oppressed, from things that was going on in slavery. You think our brothers and sisters that were slaves didn't have feelings? You think they didn't have emotions? And that trauma passed down to their children, and that trauma traveled all the way. Listen, with us, man, that trauma's traveled all the way from the Caribbean all the way to England, man. Traveled all the way from the Caribbean all the way to everywhere else we've settled, man. Carried all the way to North America, everywhere we've settled, man. That trauma in us has traveled with us. But they ain't done these studies on Black people. They only do it on Holocaust survivors. Imagine if they done it on the Holocaust that we survived, man. Just imagine the trauma that we would have. And that trauma still affects us today, that we can't raise our children right because of that trauma. Let me read on. It says, Jewish Holocaust survivors and other members of the Jewish community at the time by the indigenous peoples of Canada during the Canadian Indian residential school system and by Black Americans during slavery. So now it's talking about the collective slavery. When this collective trauma affects subsequent generations, it is called transgenerational trauma. For example, if Jewish people experience extreme stress or practice survivalism out of fear of another Holocaust, despite being born after the Holocaust, then they experience transgenerational trauma. Listen, man, we experience transgenerational trauma, man. We're survivors of a Holocaust, man. We're survivors of oppression and stress and all sorts of trauma, but we don't know how to deal with the trauma. So, okay, let me read on. Transgenerational trauma can be a collective experience that affects groups of people who share a cultural identity. It can also be applied to single families, or individual parent, child, dads. For example, survivors of individual child abuse and both direct survivors of the collective trauma and members of subsequent generations individually may develop complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Listen, man, we don't even need to know read no more on that. That's how this trauma is spread based on trauma from the past. You passing it down to your children. Read that scripture that you're holding one more time, which lets you know transgenerational trauma is in the Bible, man. So, like, you read that one more time for me, Benjamin.
Canada one can. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 4. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body.
No, give me verse 8.
Sorry. Salakia, sorry.
Now, verse 4 says, if we was to serve God, the fruit of our body would be blessed, meaning our children. They'll be blessed. Why? Because they're going to be raised the right way. They're going to be raised the correct way. Now go to 18, because this is what we live in right now. Salakia.
Canada one can. Verse 18. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body.
It says, cursed shall be the fruit of thy body. What's the fruit of your body? Your children. And what we just read is transgenerational trauma. It's passed down from parents to children. And that is the fruit of your body being cursed, man. Them having the trauma that you had, that's a curse, man. Transgenerational trauma is a curse, man. Today they call it transgenerational trauma. The Lord calls it cursed is the fruit of your body, man. Which lets you know transgenerational trauma is in the Bible. Salakia, drop that. Get me 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 8. So we're going to go into the Apocrypha. Also, any questions, just type them in, or if you want to chime in, just, Benjamin, whenever you want to chime in, just, let me know.
Canada one can, sir. Salakia said that's 2nd Ezra chapter 5 verse 8, he said.
Yeah, 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 8. All right, so now we're in the book of 2nd Ezra. Hold on, let me just get my notes. Yeah, go ahead.
2nd Ezra chapter 5 verse 8. There shall be a confusion also in many places.
Speaking about confusion, why? Because the whole earth is out of course. The whole earth is off balance. Go ahead.
And the fire shall be sent out again. And the wind and the wild beast shall change their places. And menstruous women shall bring forth monsters.
It says menstruous women shall bring forth monsters, man. Menstruous women shall bring forth monsters, and monsters are being brought forth in these single parent households, man. What do you think you see with people running around with knives, all of those kind of things? Listen, like I said, women can't raise a man. It says menstruous women shall bring forth monsters, man. Menstruous women, and imagine being a man raised by a woman. Benjamin, what are women know? What are women known for being?
Being lippy, full of emotions.
Exactly, women are known for being emotional. So imagine you being a man who's not supposed to be emotional, being raised in a single parent household. You're going to end up being emotional, man. It says menstruous women shall bring forth monsters, and Benjamin, when women are menstruating, what's their mood like?
Monstrous.
Exactly, and emotional and hormonal. Imagine when women are menstruating, there's a lot of things to do to be hormonal. Listen, they want to chew ice. That one's crazy to me. I still can't understand that one. They want to chew ice. They want to cry, eat ice cream 1 minute, hot, cold minute, cold the next minute. They're happy, they're sad, they cry. All these roller coaster of emotions Imagine being a male, seeing all these roller coaster of emotions. Of course, these men is gonna grow up and become monsters, man. Because they're gonna be emotional. Why? Because they're seeing their mom with all these roller coaster of emotions. Whereas you need a man in the house who's not emotional, who's gonna say to them kids, look, ABC. Like being emotional shouldn't affect your righteousness. Like being emotional shouldn't affect your outlook on life. Because when you're emotional, what happens? You make emotional decisions, man. And our sons have become emotional. And how do you know this? Why? Because someone upsets them, and what do? Go and kill someone while they're emotional. And then they have to go to jail for 30 years. And about 1 month into the sentence, they regret it. They acted off of emotions. Now, if you didn't act off of emotions, you wouldn't go and do. Think about it. If you know you're going to get 30 years in jail, you're going to assess it first and be like, you know what? I can't do that because it's going to land me in jail. But once you're emotional, you don't think. Once you do things based off emotions, you then realize it's too late, man. After you've done stabbed someone to death because you was emotional. Now, once you're not upset no more, you realize, you know what? I didn't need to stab that person. This is the things that our sisters do when they're emotional. They phone 999. They put you on child support when they're what? Emotional. They find out, listen, they find out you got another woman, you can no longer see the kids. Why? Because you're emotional. And then when they're no longer emotional, they don't even know why they did these things. This is why sometimes you have to ask, sometimes when people's emotional, speak to them once they're not emotional no more and say to them, why did you do that? And the answer you're going to get is, I don't know. If you don't know why you're doing something, you shouldn't be doing it. If you're going to do something, at least make sure there's a purpose, man. Don't operate off of emotions. And that's where we go wrong in our communities, man. We act off of emotions too much. And acting off of emotions, you do some irreversible damage. There's some things you do that can't be reversed. And you kicking that man out of the house and you trying to raise these children without a man, you do irreversible damage to those children. Because once those children is a certain age, you can't say nothing to them no more, man. There's nothing you can say to them no more. And this is why, listen, man, when getting with a partner, this is why it's very, you have to take your time and pick the right one. Sometimes you have to speak to you. Usually what I realized is most people that you speak to, you usually know within the first 5 minutes. Within the first 5 minutes of speaking to someone, sometimes you can kind of gauge, me and this person ain't going to be compatible. This person ain't for me. Usually it takes 5 minutes. Just have a conversation for 5 minutes, and usually you can kind of gauge someone and be like, you know what? We're not going to be compatible. The thing is, we don't do that. We choose partners based on beauty and all of those kind of things. Read that for me one more time. So okay.
2nd Esdras chapter 5 verse 8. There shall be a confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be oft sent out again, and the wild beast shall change their places.
And the
and
wild beast shall change their places, man. Go ahead.
And menstruous women shall bring forth monsters.
And menstruous women shall bring forth monsters, man. And what you're seeing now is monsters is being created, man. How are monsters created? Single parent households, man. Why? Because all this trauma from their youth. Hold on, let me get the next one. Let me get border personality disorder. Border personality disorder stems from trauma, which is learned behavior, where children can't develop a personality, or they have this thing where what you find is people that grow up with no father. Hold on. All right, what you find is people that grow up with no father, they tend to have attachment issues. And this is why women that go for a lot of men, most of them didn't have that male role model in their life. So what do they have? Attachment issues. They feel like their father never loved them. So the first man that shows them a bit of attention, what do they do? Oh, he must love me. They give themselves to him. And men know. So what these men do is they manipulate these women make them think they love them, and they just use them. And then before you know it, they have attachment issues. They get attached to every male out there. What you find is men that didn't grow up without a father, they do what? Join gangs. Why? Because they're looking for a father figure. And nobody loves a child like the father does. So now what's your father gonna do? If you say to imagine if you say to your father, yeah, Dad, I want to go on this county line and sell drugs. Guess what your dad's gonna say? Are you crazy? You're not doing that because you ain't going to jail. Your father's gonna check you, man. Now, a man in the world that you look up to and claim is your father figure, he's gonna allow you to go and sell them drugs, man. He's gonna say, yeah, come work for me on these county lines. Why? Because he don't love you, and you don't know what love is. You don't know what fatherly love is. Why? Because you haven't had a father. So if you haven't had a father, you don't know what fatherly love is, man. You don't know what love from a true father is. If you're a woman that's never had a father, you don't know what true love from a father is. So then what do? You try and find this love the hard way by going with every man that tells you they like you. Because why? You ain't never been raised by a father. You ain't never been there, seen your father there, when you're young and how he raises you and how he tells you what to do and what not to do. He ain't gave you that prep talk about men or none of those things. You've learned from your mom, and you've seen different men go in and out the house. So you think that's normal? And the reason your mom does that is why? Because she probably didn't have a father too. The same trauma that you have, and the same way you're learning as you go along, thinking this man loves you, is the same way your mom's doing the same thing. And because nobody got rid of that trauma, it passes down from all the way up there, all the way down, and you're all stuck with that trauma. And then you teach your daughter the same thing, and your son learns the same thing, and then your son watches movies, and who's his role model? Like usually, Benjamin, usually with children, especially with boys, when they're younger, what do they say? They want to be like their dad. What do they say? I want to be strong like my dad. That's what they say.
Can't, sir.
They say, I want to be strong like my dad. I want to be like my dad. Now, if they don't have no dad, who do they want to be like? Somebody they see on TV. They want to be like old boy from Boys in the Hood. That's who they want to be like. They want to be like old dog from Menace to Society. And that's why the ghetto's the way it is. Why? Because men with no fathers pick their father figures off of movies, off of TV shows. And that's a risk. Go ahead.
Nowadays, the young boys trying to follow Andrew Tate.
That too. All of them want to follow Andrew Tate, who Andrew Tate seems like he's got a hatred for women. Obviously, with Andrew Tate, some of the stuff he says is correct. I believe it's the way he words it, which is wrong.
Can't, sir.
And I'm sure they said he had sex rings, and all of these things going on. I don't know if it's true, but that's the kind of things they be saying. And listen, man, there's no greater love than the love of a father, man. It's your father's job to discipline you, put you in your place, do all of those things, man. You won't appreciate it when you're young, but what happens is, I think you appreciate your father when you get to about what age, man? About 18, 19?
Can't, sir. I would say about 18, yes.
Listen, before that, you can't stand your father because he's strict and always telling you get in the house, always telling you do this, do that, go to college, go to this, go to that. And you look around all the people around you that don't have no father, and guess what you say? You say, I want to be free like them. That's what you say. You say, why do I have to have a father? I want to be free like all of them. Until those people that didn't have no father start going to jail. Until those people that didn't have, when your father told you stay in the house, you're not going outside. Those people who didn't have no father who was outside, until they go and kill somebody and end up in jail, until they get killed and end up in a grave, guess what happens? You start to appreciate your father, man. You start to see what your father was protecting you from. You start to see what your father was saving you from. You then start to see it. But as of right now, you can't see it, man. There's a veil on your eyes right now until you get to 18, 19. You start to appreciate your father, man. Listen, we've all been there. This world teaches us to hate our father until you become a father yourself, and then you realize. Drop that. Give me 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 3. If that's the right one. Okay. All right, so now we're in the book of Fit. And also, any questions, just type them in and we'll get to them.
Cuddle one card. 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 3. Whose adorning let it not be that outward adorning of
Obviously, this is in the book of First Peter. It's telling sisters be known for more than your jewelry and your makeup and your clothing. This is saying, now is this saying you can't have it? No. What it's saying, basically what this is saying, don't be like the sisters out there in the world who don't have no virtue or no skill, who are only known for being pretty. Because when wartime comes, you ain't gonna have no time to be pretty. When wartime comes and the cities is locked down, you're gonna run out of makeup, man. Then we're gonna see the real you. Be known for your virtue, man. Be known for your skills, your sisterhood, your virtue. Be known for those things and not just your beauty. Beauty can only get you so far. Once upon a time, Khalees was beautiful, and look at Khalees now with the 80-year-old man. You see that? You see that?
so look here,
Hold on,
sir.
let me find it. One time, Khalees's milk was bringing all the boys to the yard, and now she's had to settle for some 80-year-old man. Hold on, let me see if I can get an image.
So look here, sir. She's bringing the sugar daddies to the yard now.
So I can say that again.
She's bringing the sugar daddies to the yard now.
Exactly. And that's all she can get now, man. That's all she can get. She should have stayed with Nas, man. So lucky. She should have stayed with. Oh wait, hold on. I need to get her. Hold on.
That's right.
Yeah, I need to get a better image than that one. That one is. Listen, one day, Khalees was beautiful, man. This is Khalees now. Can you see that on the screen?
Oh,
This
gosh.
one day Khalees was bringing all milkshake was bringing all the boys to the yard, man. And now look, listen, man. Beauty can only get you so far. Be known for more than your jewelry and your makeup, because there's gonna come a time when a man's gonna need more than just your beauty. There's gonna come a time when a man's gonna need a meal. A man's gonna need all of those kind of things. There's gonna come a time when a man needs more than just your beauty. Salaki, what was it? Salaki, read on.
1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 3. Whose adorning let it be not outward adorning of plaiting the hair.
Let it not be of outward adorning, meaning some of them are only known for their beauty. But this is where men go wrong, because you pick based on what you see. Whereas obviously everyone likes beautiful women, but once you speak to them, then you're supposed to be like, you know what? Yeah, this one ain't for me. Just by how she speaks. Just by how she speaks, I can tell this one ain't for me. So Lucky, go ahead.
And wearing of gold.
Go ahead.
Or of putting on of apparel. Verse 4. But let it be the hidden man of the heart.
Go ahead.
In that which is not corruptible.
And that's more preferred, man. That's more preferred. You be righteous inwardly, man, than you having all of the outward apparel and all of those kind of things. Listen, what we need now is sisters with virtue, man, with skills that can go to work and bring that money, that can braid hair, that can cook, that can do all of those kind of things, man. What's a woman? What's a woman sitting down looking pretty all day gonna do for anybody, man? Being pretty don't pay bills. Lucky with OnlyFans nowadays, it seems to pay bills. Lucky nowadays it seems to pay the bills. But listen, sitting down pretty ain't doing nothing, man. What brothers need now is sisters with virtue, man. You find that in the ISUPK, man. So okay, go ahead.
Another one card. Even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit,
Listen, man. That's what we need, man. Some meek and quiet spirit. Go ahead.
which is in the sight of God of great price.
That's a great price. Go ahead.
Verse 5. For after this manner in the old time, the holy women also, who trusted in God, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands.
And they adorn themselves being in subjection to their own husbands. Nowadays, it says the women of God in old times who trusted in God was in subjection to their own husbands. Now, if you got a man and you ain't in subjection to him, then that means you ain't a woman of God, man. That's what it means. You're a woman and you're kicking your man out of the house, telling him he can't see the kids. You ain't a woman of God, man. I don't care what that Christian pastor told you. I don't care what that pastor told you. The pastor's telling you the opposite to what God says, man. God says the women of that feared God was in subjection to their husbands. Nowadays, women that are in subjection to their husbands, women that ain't in subjection to their husbands try to speak down on them. Meanwhile, they're moving from men to men to men. Listen, man. I had some. There was some silly woman saying that, how women that obey their husbands are stupid and backwards. Understand this, man. When war breaks out, we're gonna see who's stupid and backwards, man. When war breaks out in the city and there's no 999 and there's no police and you're fearful for your life, let's see who's protected. The women in subjection to their husbands, or you loudmouth women that want to go party every weekend and run your mouth? Let's see who's protected. The ones who's in subjection to their husbands, or the ones that want to run their mouth and say they don't need a man? Because 999 probably won't work in that day, man. Nowadays, 999 barely works. People phone the police nowadays, and the police have a long waiting list. We don't have enough officers. They're always trying to recruit because they don't have enough police officers, man. If you can't see the whole system's crashing, listen, man, those ambulance strikes and all of those kind of things, people's dying in their house. Why? Because the ambulances wouldn't come out. Police are saying we're not coming out for petty crimes no more. The time's coming when 999 ain't going to work because there's not going to be enough police officers on the beat, man. Whereas these sisters who's married to a man in the ISUPK, they're going to be protected, man, because they're in subjection to their husband. Now you women that ain't in subjection to no man, you go fend for yourself, man. You're a strong, independent woman. You're strong enough to defend yourself. So lucky. In that day, you're going to be strong enough to defend yourself from whatever lies in wait outside, man. You're a strong, independent woman. So you listen. You're gonna handle yourself in that day because you're so strong and independent. So lucky, read on.
Verse 6. Even Sarah obeyed Abraham.
Even Sarah obeyed Abraham, man. A righteous sister obeyed her husband. Go ahead.
Calling him Lord.
Calling him Lord, man. She understood the assignment. She understood how to build her house. She understood how to build her house, man. Obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, man. Listen, man. See, ask your woman to call you Lord, see if she loves you. Yes, lucky. Other one's fine, though. Other one will do. It's lucky. Go ahead.
Whose daughters ye are.
And listen, man, if you're them daughters of Sarah, man, behave like her. Behave like her. Instead of what we have today, a world full of unrighteousness. Go ahead.
As long as ye do well and are not afraid with any amazement.
Go ahead.
Verse 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge.
Please dwell with them according to knowledge, man. Go ahead.
Giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel.
Give honor unto the wife as to the weaker vessel, and you dwell with them according to knowledge. And what's the knowledge, man? The knowledge is you're the head of the house, man. The knowledge is what? God, Christ, man, woman, child, man. Understanding that what? You're in charge of that house. She's the weaker vessel, man. The thing is this: you're letting the weaker vessel run the house. That's the problem. You're letting the weaker vessel run the house. You're letting her use that authority. And that's why everything's failing, man, because the foundations is out of course. So like you go ahead.
And has been heirs together of the grace of life.
And now sisters are the weaker vessel. So what you should do as a sister, them kids is acting up. Let the father do his job, man. Let him discipline them children, man. Let him do his job. And listen, man, everybody knows it that what growing up, you're afraid of your dad, man. You're afraid of him. Because once your dad gets to raising his voice, it's like a lion in the house, man. It's like a lion roaring in the house. And then when your mom starts screaming and shouting, what do kids do? Still do what they want. And this is why kids get to about 13, 14. And listen, Benjamin, we've all been there. You get to about 13, 14. Your mom tries to hit you. And it just doesn't have no effect no more. She hits you and you don't feel it no more. Listen, man. By that time, it's too late. The training you should have bowed down their neck from a youth. By that time, if you're still beating them at the age of 18, it's too late now. They're headstrong. And that's what the Bible says. You bow down their head from a youth, man. You're still trying to hit them at them big ages. It's not going to work, man. So, lucky, hold on. Get me Ecclesiasticus chapter 30 and verse 7. Let me quickly try to run through this one.
Another one card. The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 30 and verse 7. He that maketh too much of his son shall bind up his wounds.
Go ahead.
And his bowels will be troubled at every cry.
And listen, man, sometimes with your children, man, as a man, you know when your child's in the wrong, whereas obviously the sisters, they're loving and nurturing, and they love their children the best way they can. So even when their child's in the wrong, they'll go to the school and hit the teacher. The teacher's picking on him. Whereas as a man, you know if your child's rude or not. As a man, you will go there and say, you know what? The boy's not listening to the teacher. Give him detention. The mom will be like, no, don't give him detention. He's my son. And you let them get away with murder. Whereas as a father, you don't do that. Why? Because you understand that children need discipline. So, okay, go ahead.
Got another one card. And horse not broken becometh headstrong.
Oh, what?
And horse not broken becometh headstrong.
Listen, man. It becomes headstrong. These children, if you don't discipline them, they're going to become headstrong. And that's why you're trying to beat them at the age of 18. It's too late now. You're trying to tell them don't sell drugs at the age of 18. It's too late now. All of this stuff should have been instilled in them many years before. Go ahead.
And a child left to himself will be willful.
And a child left to himself, listen, discipline comes from the father, man. It's supposed to come from the father. Listen, till this day, I hear my dad raise his voice a little bit, and I'm still kind of like, till this day, and I'm a grown man now. Like everyone growing up, your father, obviously, growing up, your father was the biggest nigger in the world, Salakia. He was the tallest man in the world, deepest voice in the world, scariest person in the world. And you would obey his voice. Whereas your mom was more the softest person in the world, the most loving person in the world. And you wouldn't obey her voice. Why? Because you know there's not really much she can do to you. So okay, go ahead.
Verse 9. Conquer thy child, and he shall make thee afraid.
Meaning you pamper them and you play with them and you and your child are friends. And that's what a lot of people do today. Like you'll see a picture of the mother and daughter and they're both just like hoes in the picture. How can you as a mother take a picture just like a hoe with your daughter and you're both in the pictures and you got her dressed all skimpy and you're recording it for her? You've cocked your child, man. And she's going to bring you to shame when she gets pregnant at 16. When she gets pregnant at 15, you're gonna cry, oh my God, how did my daughter get pregnant? Obviously, you led her to this moment, you cocked her, you played with her, you pampered her. Slacky, go ahead.
Another one can. Play with him, and he will bring thee to heaviness.
Play with him and he will bring thee to heaviness. You and your children ain't friends, man. You're the parent. You and your children ain't friends. What's crazy to me is I see some parents smoking with their children. Like, that's crazy to me, man. Listen, play with him and he's gonna bring you to heaviness. You play with them until one day the police is phoning you saying, yep, they've done this and they're going to jail. They're gonna bring you to heaviness. Go ahead.
Laugh not with him, lest thou have sorrow with him. And lest thou gnash thy teeth.
Don't laugh with them, man. Don't be playing games with them, laughing with them, all of those kind of things. Don't be doing that, man. Because it's not a game. You're raising your children to what? One day, do what you do, man. You're like now. If you're righteous, you're raising your children to do what? Be a mirror image of you. You're raising them so when you're no longer here, they carry on what you've taught them, man. Now, if you're playing games with them, that's not going to happen because everything's going to be a game and everything's going to be a joke. Go ahead.
Give him no liberty in his youth.
Don't give them no freedom to do no foolishness. Go ahead.
And wink not at his follies.
Don't wink at his foolishness. Don't give them a pass for the foolishness, man. You pulled them up. Hey, you shouldn't have done that. Now, you don't have to beat them every chance you get. Sometimes explain to them, yo, don't do this because, and let them know. Go ahead.
Bow down his neck while he is young.
And now it says bow down his neck while he's young. Because if you don't do it when they're young, what happens? They become headstrong. They become so headstrong that you're trying to discipline them when they're like a grown man now. Like, oh, it's too late. So lucky, go ahead.
And beat him on the sides while he's a child.
And discipline them when they're a child. Why? Because then they can learn from their mistakes. While their brain's still a sponge and they're still learning, if you discipline them, they can learn from their mistakes. Go ahead.
Lest he wax stubborn and be disobedient unto thee.
And there you go. If you don't discipline him from his youth, he's going to be stubborn when he grows up and he's going to be disobedient. And this is the problem our sisters have with the kids wants to grow up. You didn't allow their father to raise them. And now the children are disobedient to you, wants to grow up. They're wax stubborn and they're disobedient. And there's nothing you can do. So, lucky, go ahead.
And so bring sorrow to thine heart.
Listen, man. And it always happens. We've seen it before. And if we don't change how these kids are being raised and these single parent households, the same thing is going to happen again, man. Allow that man to see those children. Let me get one more. Give me 2 Samuel chapter 12 and verse 1. Let me get the last one before we go.
Canada one, come, sir. The book of 2 Samuel chapter 12 and verse 1. And the Lord...
Now the backdrop of this is obviously David broke the laws of God, and the Lord sent Nathan the prophet to explain to him in like a different type of way. And David got mad. And then Nathan said to him, look, this is talking about you, but it's lucky. Go ahead. That's the context of it. But go ahead.
2 Samuel chapter 12 verse 1. And the Lord sent Nathan unto David. And he came unto him and said unto him, there were 2 men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. Verse 2. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds.
But now it's giving David a parable about himself. He's giving David a parable about himself. One man was rich, one man was poor. Go ahead.
Verse 3. But the poor man had nothing, save one little ewe lamb.
So now one of them just had a lamb. Go ahead.
Which he had bought and nourished up. And it grew up together with him and with his children.
So this man had a lamb which grew up with him and his children. So he's giving him like a parable which is referring to himself. Go ahead.
It did eat of its own meat and drink of its of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter.
Go ahead.
Verse 4. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd.
So now the rich man could have had of his own flock, his own herd, but he didn't. He took this man's lamb. Go ahead.
To dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was come to him. Verse 5. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man.
David's anger was kindled against that man. David was angry, like, yo, how's a man doing that? How evil can a man be to do that? David's anger is kindled against this man. Go ahead.
And he said to Nathan, as the Lord liveth, the man that has done this thing shall surely die.
The man that has done this shall surely die. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing,
Go ahead.
and because he had no pity. And Nathan said unto David, thou art the man.
And he said to David, thou art the man. So now, let me give you a scenario when this happens every single day. Imagine this, Benjamin. Imagine this. A woman stops a man from seeing his child. She stops a man from seeing his child for no reason, because she's mad and she's bitter. So she stops a man from seeing his child. And then this woman has a son. Imagine, Benjamin, this woman has a son.
Go on, sir.
And now this woman, now this woman is a grandma. She wants to see them grandkids. This man's woman says, no, he ain't seen the kids, and you can't see the kids. And what does the grandma say? This grandma's like, this woman's evil. She's bitter. She's horrible. She's bitter. She's not letting my son see the kids. Why is she being so horrible? Why is she being so evil? Why aren't you letting my son see the kids? And she hates that woman. She's not letting my son see the kids because he don't want to be with her. She's so evil and disgusting. And this grandma saying this, guess what? She don't realize that this is a mirror image of herself, man. You done the same thing to a man 20 years earlier, man. You stopped a man from seeing his kids 20 years earlier. Now, the same way you're feeling like that woman's evil, there's someone out there feeling like you're evil, man. The same way this woman's not letting your son see his kids and you can't see your grandkids. You also stopped a man from seeing his kids 20 years earlier, man. You're looking at this woman like she's evil, she's bitter, she's miserable, she's bitter because you don't want to be with her, can't see the kids, and I can't see my grandkids because she's bitter. Guess what? You was this woman 20 years ago, man. Read that last verse one more time in verse 7.
And Nathan said to David, thou art the man.
Listen, you grandmas that's mad that you can't see your grandkids, you're that same woman, man, because you done the same thing to a man 20 years ago. You can't be mad about this woman not letting your son see his kids and you not being able to see your grandkids. You know why? You stopped a man from seeing his grandkids 20 years ago, man. Guess what, Benjamin? It was fine when she did it. When she did it, it was acceptable to stop a man from seeing his kids. And it was so right, he don't deserve to see his kids. Now that she's had a son and she's a grandma, she wants to see her grandkids, and this woman doesn't allow her son to see the kids. Now this woman's bitter and angry and mad for no reason. This woman's a mirror reflection of you, man. You are that woman, man. You are that woman. Read that verse one more time, Salake.
And Nathan said to David, thou art the man.
And they said what?
Thou art the man.
Listen, man. You grandmas that can't see your grandsons, 20 years ago, that woman was you, man. You are the woman, man. You're calling this woman now evil and all of these things. And to think you women that ain't letting these kids see their children, 20 years time from now, you ain't going to be able to see your grandchildren, man. Because because your son is going to go through what you're putting this man's father through, man. And you're going to hate that woman. And you can't understand why nobody hates you. You can't understand why people are mad at you for not allowing a man to see his child. This woman is a mirror reflection of you, man. Read that verse one more time.
Verse 7. And Nathan said to David, Thou art the man.
Listen, man. You women, this is you, man. You are that woman that I'm speaking of. So, okay. With that brings us to the end of the class. Clap it up. We're gonna do the security announcements and we out again. Zakai, can you see some security announcements on there? Look on there. Look at them sheets on there. There should be one that says security announcements. You see it? There should be one on there. All right, no sweat. I can't find it. All right. With that brings us to the end of the class. All right, Banyamyan for Wade. I appreciate it. Also, we'll be here tomorrow with Officer Karafia. And with that, we say shalom, shalom, Israel.
Shalom.